Sun Life Financial is proud to host this roundtable on healthy workplace cultures in partnership with the HR Reporter. It's part of our thought leadership platform, The Conversation, which brings together leaders and experts to deliver the best thinking in group benefits both inside and outside our organization.
With an aging population, more treatable diseases, and a growing number of specialty drugs, drug plans in Canada are seeing dramatically rising costs. Canadian HR Reporter recently moderated a roundtable sponsored by Sun Life Financial that brought together several experts to discuss the challenges and possible solutions, looking at issues such as how these plans have evolved, innovation in medicine and technology, the benefits of targeted treatments, the growth of chronic diseases, evidence-based drug plans and tiered formularies, generic substitutions, and employee preferences. In this video, the second of a three-part series, panelists talk about potential solutions to deal with rising drug costs, such as reviewing contracts, good governance, mandatory generics, cost sharing, and SEBs.
There's no silver bullet, as to speak. It's all incremental and additive of solutions. So evidence-based and looking at the evidence, and we talked about who's the right person for the right drug at the right time concept. So, are you taking the drug where it'll actually have clinical values and effectiveness? It's looking at things like mandatory generic. We talked about that earlier, where the prices have come down, where they're as low as 18 to 20% of the brand. So where the evidence suggests that they're effectively equal, promoting the use of generics. We talked about preferred pharmacy networks a little bit, where leveraging the volume to help negotiate the price lower. So I think it's all additive solutions that come to help manage the overall cost.
I'm a big believer in sharing some cost with employees. The reason I am is I've seen far too often when it is 100% covered, there's a complete disregard for need versus want. Mm-hmm. If you go to the physician and you get a year's worth of prescriptions, some of which you may or may not need through the year, if you have a drug card that pays for everything, you get them all filled, take them home and bring them back a year later expired. So I think some responsibility, that's my own personal opinion, co-insurance or something that gives a responsibility to the employee to bear some of the cost definitely encourages judicious use.
I know that's been our approach at Bridgestone as well, in looking at sharing the cost, certainly to obviously minimize financial risk, but to also say, to your point, you don't just go and get all of these things filled. You need to have some understanding of what the cost is, and is that what you really need? And then we get into the conversation about generic versus brand name.
Exactly.
Is there something else that could be just as effective, not as expensive?
And that's where you have to hit it at both ends. You want people to be thinking and as if it's their own money mm-hmm. for sort of those, if you will, day-to-day expenses. But at the same time, you want to make sure that someone has the protection if something really catastrophic happens. And so you see the co-pays and co-insurances up front, but ensuring that a plan has an out-of-pocket maximum, for example, for the individual. The idea of 20% co-insurance may have been fine when the average prescription was $40 or $50 and you spent $500 a year. When you get a $20,000 prescription, your 20% co-insurance may not be what an employer really meant when they said, let's share the cost of this. You need to look at how much an employee can afford. And at a certain point, smart shopping is not really what you're asking them for when they've got a $50,000 drug for a severe condition. You want them to get the care and the coverage they need, and you want to make sure you're providing the financial protection to do that.
I think too many plans are at 100% of reimbursement. With the cards, it's for an employee that means everything is free, and in Ontario, all other provinces except Quebec, it's a non-taxable benefit. Healthcare, HCSA, dental, it's a non-taxable benefit. So for some employees, that corresponds to a total free plan benefit program. In Quebec, it's a taxable benefit, approximately 25% of an average salary mm-hmm. of 60 to 100,000. So maybe here, and even if it's taxable benefit, we implement cost sharing, copay, and I think it's a good suggestion to be part of our benefit philosophy for clients.
Yeah. So we're seeing prices come as 16 to 50% lower for the few SUVs that have come to market. Once again, still very early days. It'll be interesting to see what happens in the coming this year as well as next year, there's quite a few biologics that are expected to lose their patent.
Well, there's a couple of different issues there. One is, are physicians actually going to take up prescribing the SEBs? We've seen that with the couple that are on the market now, that there's virtually no usage of them. So without sort of the incentive of, or the ability to do a generic type substitution, what is really the take up of an SEB going to be? I would suggest that even the cost savings that we are seeing on, the list price of an SEB may be 15 to 50% less than the list price of the originator drug. But if that originator drug is one that you've actually got to negotiate a deal with the manufacturer, that list price difference is actually overstating the true savings. If I've already got a 30% discount from the manufacturer and the SEB is 35% cheaper, how much cheaper really is it at the end of the day? So there are certainly some savings there. Quantifying them both from a utilization and from a price perspective is something that we're going to have to see come through, because right now I don't think there's a lot of proof that there's any savings, just simply because they haven't rolled enough of them out into the market.